Welcome to the Visual Cast. I'm your host, Alon Hammer, aka Rem. The Visual Cast is a hybrid podcast where we interview some of the most unique, interesting, high level, and exciting artists from all over the world. Entering into season 2, we will be starting a monthly live stream to our paid subscribers. To join in on the live stream with Q&As, polls, and some surprises, click on the join button below. Your subscription will massively support our channel and bring us further to creating a community of like-minded individuals who love, create, and immerse themselves with the visual arts and the visual world. For those unable to join financially, don't worry. The episode, like all of our episodes, will be available on Thursdays for everyone to watch. And if you want to support us, like and subscribe and share with anybody you think will enjoy the podcast. I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. Now, without any further ado, here's the Visual Cast.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Alrighty, welcome to the Visual Cast. I'm joined today by a very special guest, a very lovely and kind and sweet guy, doing some pretty insane work. It seems like I've been following him for a long time, kind of not even on purpose, but just kind of seeing what's going on in his world. And it's really impressive what the stuff that he's been managing to produce and create and be part of. And I'm really excited to have him here today. Welcome to the podcast, Seer.
Yeah, what's up? Good afternoon.
Hey man, how's it going? Good afternoon. Good. How's it by you? It's by me. It's lovely weather, really nice, and lovely sunny day.
It's also lovely. I'm in South Carolina, so it's we get rain kind of almost every other day, so everything kind of just stays fresh, which coming from California and then New Mexico is very refreshing to wake up to, like just
Nice.
Like that
Nice,
like
dude.
wetness, that
The dew.
clear sky. The dew, it's so
The dew.
nice, man. It's underrated.
Yeah.
Dew is underrated.
It is underrated for sure. Well, I want to jump into your work here a little bit because I want to kind of just intro you a little bit. And, it's really cool. I mean, your stuff is cool as an understatement, I would say. Probably the wrong word to describe. But it's just, there's like a really unique and very cool aesthetic to it. And I really love kind of going through your Instagram. I was going through it before when I was getting ready, just to see the uniqueness in the work that you do and the eclecticism in it, and just the high octane, the really high quality visual 3D renders are just really, really nice to see. And you've been doing some really awesome projects with some really cool, and I keep on saying cool, with some really stellar, with some really stellar artists. And it's really, really nice. I just wanted to start off with just kind of asking you, where do you pull your creative inspiration from? Where do you kind of come up with your aesthetic? And what are some inspirations that you have while we go through your Instagram quickly?
These are great questions. I really like natural movement, like fluid motions, and I always say that I'm heavily inspired by smoke in a still room. Like I just love the
Nice.
way like the natural dynamics of things, of like fluid or smoke or vapor. Like I love watching things like that move. So and whenever I'm creating, like I try to be, I don't try, my goal is to be as like thoughtless as I can be when I'm making like these larger pieces. Like for clients and stuff, it's more directed and you want to achieve a goal and a purpose. But when I'm making stuff that's just for me, just for like people to experience, like for my larger show stuff, I like to just get to a place where I'm not thinking as much as I am just flowing with it. And it's
I
harder
love
to
that.
achieve a flow state with computers, because there's just so many barriers between you and just achieving that flow, because computers have errors, like paintbrushes don't. So it's hard. It's a different flow state, because I love painting, I love dancing, I love like a natural
Mm.
flow state. But with computers, it's like it can be a very rigid system. Like you can, but like as long as you can get to that place where you can be in a flow state with computer, I feel like what you create is just like is just like there's nothing else like it, where you can create something like this, like have this impact. I really love this piece because, um, for those that don't know, my work is stereoscopic. So when you put the 3D glasses on, that is an
Mm.
extension of the room.
Wow.
So this one is spatial. You see right there, you put the glasses on, and um, I wanted to make this like feel like it's a lab right beyond this, like an extension. You're
That's
extending and
so
seeing
cool.
this kind of Da Vinci-esque um, um, laboratory. I'm a big Da Vinci fan, so like I wanted to do my own version of
Hell yeah.
Vitruvian Man, studying
Hell
Da
yeah.
Vinci, studying his work. Um, so
I
yeah,
didn't know
with
your
with
work
this,
is I didn't know your work is stereoscopic. That's super cool.
yeah, the with liminal, their technology is stereoscopic. So
Wow.
um, yeah, so we built an amusement park ride in 2016 that won awards. It's still up. It's the Mass Effect video game ride. So anything you see with the big display is all stereoscopic. So rendering left eye and right eye, and the screen itself is checkerboarding the left eye and right eye and
Hmm.
running it through polarizing film that then coincides with the
Wow.
3D glasses.
That's
So
awesome.
everything is coming off the screen. That's why
Fuck yeah.
this work has like so much impact on people, is because you don't really get to see that much depth in a lot of 3D art. This was in Miami, so you could imagine that this one comes out of, like past me when you wear the glasses. Like the flowers
Wow.
are like the flowers are coming 6 feet off the screen.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so everything has got that volume and it's got that depth. So um, shows just have more like of an impact. Like you don't need as much in front of it, because really people are just focusing on the show. It's just it's the coolest technology. I think it's the coolest canvas that's ever existed, is this 3D LED screen. This is a 3.9 millimeter, and they just got their
Hmm.
1.9 millimeter, which
Oh
like the
nice.
pixel density is
Yeah.
so much better. And like,
Yeah. It's
so
super
I have
tight.
yet to see this screen. It's in LA, the new 1.9, but Liminal has
1.9.
got something really special going on with their technology.
It's so cool. I love volumetric LEDs. I had an opportunity to work with Cosm, who are they do spheres. They do like LED spheres, and not the sphere, but they do their own spheres. And they have a really cool stereoscopic demo that they do.
Mhm.
And it's fucking crazy that LED, like the stereoscopic in general, we all know like the 3D movies when you go to them, how it pops out at you. But when you see it on like
Mhm.
a really high density, high pixel pitch, or low pixel pitch, I guess, screen, it's something special because it really feels like volumetric, right? Because of just the way the blacks kind of play and the shadows work so well. You're getting such an
Mhm.
amazing depth to that. That's super cool.
Mhm.
I did not know that that was stereoscopic. That makes me even more excited to go check it out.
Yeah,
Um,
you gotta go see it.
oh, I love this older stuff of yours is really awesome, dude. This is great.
Yeah, this was the
Super nice.
beginning. I modeled this for one of my first projects with Liminal when during quarantine. They wanted to build a 3D like stage for Burning Man. So
Cool.
you were able to go inside of this head
Oh
and watch our
wow.
visuals in 3D in VR. So
Okay.
so we were shooting it in 3D in real life with a 3D camera and casting it to the screen inside of the visor of
Super cool.
the head.
Super
And I got
cool.
to
I love
DJ
that.
it and play it. It was so cool, man. It was a
That's
really, really
awesome.
cool project. Yeah.
Man, that whole COVID time with all like the virtual reality and streaming and everything, it was like such a, as much as it was such a shitty time being stuck inside and all the bullshit that was around it, the amount of creative like expression that was happening in our realm of
Yeah.
digital arts was crazy because everybody
Yeah,
wanted
it was.
content, everybody wanted to try new things and try out different things, and everybody was like putting kind of like money and like interest on the table. It was like crazy,
Yeah. Yeah, it was a special time. And like I had a desk job before that, so I was getting unemployment money, which meant that I could focus all my effort on
Good
learning
timing.
Octane, learning Unreal,
Oh
learning
yeah.
point clouds and stuff.
Beautiful.
Like I put all my time into figuring this out. And this is like really, really early work. Like this is when I was
Oh,
just
sorry.
messing around. This is just when I was messing around. Like you can see the difference of stuff. Like the style was always kind of there, but like I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
know that I was just developing a style. Like if you click on like this one with the lady, I thought was really cool.
This one.
Like the girl standing there. No, the one bottom. Yeah, that one. I was trying to get into camera tracking and stuff, and just seeing if
Nice.
I could do it. Um, and it was
Oh,
just a
whoa.
funny little test. Yeah, I don't know. I
Trippy.
guess I've always been inspired by trying to see things that I know aren't physically possible,
Mm.
like just things that aren't real. Like I like. I mean, I guess a lot of artists we want to see things that that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's how it started. Is just I saw like a lot of artists on Instagram creating stuff with Octane render
Mm-hmm.
and Cinema 4D, and I had been messing with Cinema for years before that, but like never stepped up to Octane. I just wanted to model, and I made silly little things here and there. But during quarantine, I got a computer that was able to run Octane, and I just spent every day in my room just making stuff for most of quarantine, and I got really
Hell
good
yeah.
at it.
Hell yeah.
Um, and then right after that, the Liminal guys asked me to come build a wall in the U.S. Bank Tower, like a brand new screen. And like I never really put two and two together, thinking like I'm working on cinema so that I can eventually work with Liminal at that capacity. I was just like a hired hand, you know. I've been working with them at that point for like 5 years, just building screens wherever they called me. They'd be like, "Hey, we're gonna go build a screen at this warehouse for this DreamWorks event or something like random," and I'd always just show up. They're paying $15-$20 an hour, and I was always stoked. I was like, "Oh, this is finally gonna get some money." And these guys are cool, but I never really thought like I'm going to work on that screen. It was just kind of like this is cool work. Like the screen is so cool, but it was always just like I was just always kind of seeing things like kid things like trolls or like some Flying Lotus stuff, which I thought was cool, but it was never like, oh, this is a medium that I could work in.
Mm.
And then they built the screen. We built the screen to the tower, and I had been so into Octane and cinema that I showed up the second day of the build with something ready to go. It wasn't 3D yet, but it was good enough.
Clearly, clearly
It was
impressed them
cool,
enough.
you know? Yeah, it was cool. But it wasn't 3D yet because I didn't understand stereoscopic. I didn't
Mm.
understand the left eye and the right eye. I didn't
Right.
understand how, the parallax point of like where your eyes are going to cross and what's uncomfortable and what's comfortable to look at. So I just made something really simple, but like it was cool. I thought it was cool. And then I just kept coming back. Like once the screen was built, we connected after quarantine, hadn't seen them in a while, and now I'm like, no, can I come up here and like test stuff? And they're like, yeah, like they're still building a relationship. It's the U.S. Bank Tower. You have to get like credentials every day you walk in there. It's like high security. But I kept coming back and I kept making more 3D stuff. And like I kept just like it was my obsession. I was just so obsessed with seeing it come off the screen and like giving me that feeling. And then I'd made enough stuff, and I made some stuff that was actually really, really impactful. Like anyone who saw it was like, "Oh, this is rad! Like this doesn't look like any of the rest of Liminal stuff at the time." And then Liminal and Ryan at Liminal and Nate were like, we should throw like a little event. And I was like, yeah, I would love to have my friends come up and like come see this stuff. And what started is just like I love for my friends and family to come see this, turned into a full blown NFT event with like celebrities and like all this publication and tickets and
Fuck
every
yeah.
like it really got out of hand really quick. And next thing you know, I'm doing like a collaboration with Miguel, and I have all these people
Nice.
that I've been talking to on Clubhouse there, and like it turned into like the first proper big event after quarantine, or like right at the very beginning of like, can we step out? Like we can
Right.
meet up,
Right.
right? Like let's do this IRL. And ended up being really big, and I remember people telling me that it felt like like we finally got through like the door. We finally got past all the madness that the past couple of years had been. It felt like we're stepping into that moment. And no one had seen 3D visuals before, so it was like a real future. And I remember telling on the post everyone that was invited, like, yo, dress like you're in the future. And everyone pulled up dressed like we're in the future, and it felt
I
like
love
we had
it.
arrived. It
I
was so
love it.
cool, man.
That's so cool, dude. That's so awesome.
It
What
was
a
really
nice
special.
moment, right? Of like this like a birth to like something new and expressive, and especially at the end of COVID, people must have been so excited and happy to like be at this. It's the future and it's the future and it's like we haven't been in this future for a while. What a great
Yeah,
time. That sounds so cool. I love it. I
it
love it.
was.
I really I love hearing about your origin. And I want to like just kind of pinpoint little small things there. I want to first, just before we continue, I want to just go a little bit about where you grew up. You mentioned to me that you grew up in a lot of different places. I'm always
Mhm.
interested to see and hear how the where people grow up and where people find themselves kind of discovering themselves affects their expression and their creativity and inspires them. Was there any thing or story or kind of something that you want to share us from your childhood growing up and living in all these places that shaped and formed your artwork today or inspired you or gave you some sort of something to emulate or something like this?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess so I was born in Mexico in 1991, and my family moved here when I was like 8 months old to New Mexico, where with my aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody lived. And then we moved shortly after to Idaho, and we were there for like my formative years, like elementary school, and then we moved to Chicago for like middle school, like Chicago suburbs in Illinois, and then we moved back to New Mexico for like high school. But I wasn't so much like growing up. I wasn't like a super creative kid, or at least I didn't really
Mm,
see that as a part of my identity.
interesting.
But I do have a memory from the time when I was like probably like 7 or 8. I think I was like 8 years old, and me and my mom and my little sister were at church, and we would always get those pew pencils and like the handouts, and I would just draw. Like I would just draw to like keep myself busy because it was the only way I
That's
wouldn't
awesome.
annoy my mom at church. It was just like
That's
drawing.
awesome. I
Yeah,
love it.
and so I remember I would just doodle, and then one day, like I don't know where it came from, my mom and I recall that I drew like a man bowing and praying,
Hmm.
kind of like you know like uh like in a traditional bowing like leaned over his knees kind of stance.
Mm-hmm.
And he had this really ornate cloak on him, and this is like
Hmm.
like ornate as like a 7-year old, a couple swirls and like a flower or something. But my mom really liked it, and I remember she told me, she's like, that's really nice. And I remember it was like the first moment I ever felt like, oh, like you like this, like something I
Hmm.
made, you like something I made. And
Hmm.
it wasn't like a school project, it wasn't like a little like
Right.
coloring books, it was like something I just
From your
made.
mind. Yeah.
And it was an important moment, I think, for me as a kid to feel that kind of feedback or like that appreciation. And then it wasn't until I was like in high school and I tried mushrooms for the first time that
Mm.
the creativity was kind of unlocked. Because before that, I liked to skate. I hung out. I didn't like. I don't know. I was like too busy in like the social circles of like trying to stay like, I don't know, like cool or be cool in high school, that I really didn't even explore my own mind in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I
Mm-hmm.
did mushrooms, and I had a really amazing trip, like mind blowing, amazing trip. But after that, I was more interested in philosophy or religion
Mm.
or ancient architecture and ancient philosophies and ancient civilizations, like things like that. Like when I was a kid, I loved reading about the Romans and the Vikings and their
Oh yeah.
gods. So I always had like a predisposition for like philosophy or theology. Like as a kid, I would go and read about every single Egyptian god, every single I mean, there was like a book series that just had like the five like or the 8 books, like Norse, Roman, Greek, Egyptian, like all the ancient
That's
Aztecs.
awesome.
I would go back and read them over and over again. I would read the same books
Wow.
over and over again. It's all they had
Still,
about these ancient civilizations, and I was just so fascinated by them.
so
And
cool.
then my stepdad got me into a game called Age of Empires, which like
Oh
led me.
yeah.
I loved Age of
Fuck
Empires.
yeah, dude.
I love learning about ancient civilizations. I mean, this wasn't learning, but it kept me.
No, it
But I think
totally
that was
is. It totally is. I think it was pretty, accurate as much as a game can be in like the early 2000s, That game was so good, dude. I love Age of
so
Empires.
I loved
So
Age of
good.
Empires, and so I think that was my introduction to computers, like as
Mm,
like a tool. And then he got me into Age of Mythology, which was like also rad, and then Age
yeah,
of like gods or something. So like that was how I got into computers, and that was like how I got
interesting.
comfortable with computers. And but I never saw that it would be like my future. And then eventually my stepdad opened up a computer store where I would go during the summers or after school. We would play
Wow.
Call of Duty and Doom and Warcraft and stuff. So I got really into just like just computers, getting comfortable, like understanding like interfaces and software and burning CDs, like as much as a kid would, but like I really loved it. We were there all the
Hmm.
time. So um, but again, like from the time I was like 10 until I was like 18 or 19, a lot of that stuff just kind of skipped. And I was just kind of I'm moving around. I need to make friends. I'm having a normal childhood. I'm riding bikes with my friends. I'm like getting into some trouble. Just, I didn't really put time or effort into like developing my craft because I was a kid. I didn't really see
Mm,
like computers as my future or
hmm.
creativity as like my path. So it wasn't until I was in high school that I started drawing more. I was like painting. I got really into like sculpting. Like art class was like my heaven. That was like my sanctuary. It's just I love this place. I My art teacher will literally give me A's as long as I make stuff that is interesting to him.
Yeah.
And everyone else's class is just blowing it off like it's just like a whatever credit. Like I love this. I will make yes, like and I love that. I love that he would just like ace. It was the best grade I ever got. And then I
Nice.
graduated high school and I went into college thinking like, oh, art class in college will be the same thing. I went there and I wasn't doing the assignments. So I started getting bad grades in college and I'm like, wait, I'm good at art. Why do I have bad grades? And it was because I just wasn't following the assignments, and that's when I was like, okay, this isn't for me. Like, I don't want to like learn. I don't want to learn about this through. So I took some film classes. I took some composition and stuff classes in high school so I got the gist of it, but I wasn't ready to just like stay in my hometown and like pay to, I don't know, like, I don't know. It just didn't seem like the
Can you
route.
can you put your finger on why you left, like out of interest? Because it's always one of those things that, you know, I went to art school, but I didn't really finish, and even though I kind of considered it a good thing, I'd studied film, and a lot of people like have these. Some people have these great experiences where they meet the best, teacher that they ever had, or they meet their collaborators, their future collaborators. They learn something, or sometimes it's like people go to school and they realize they don't want to do this, right? And they go to something completely
Yeah.
different. Can you put your finger on it? Was it just as simple as just like you want to make art the way that you want to, and they were kind of like pushing you into a
Mm,
weird direction?
I think it just felt really basic when I first
Mm,
got there. It felt really like, okay, we're gonna learn how to do a 2D drawings of camera apertures, and you're gonna learn about
right.
composition and balance
Uh
and
huh.
stuff, and like things that I felt like I intuitively knew. Like I know I could have learned a lot if I would have stuck with it. I probably would have learned a lot more, a lot quicker if I would have. But I guess I was more excited to just make art than to learn about
Yeah.
it.
More
And
hands on.
so
You want to be more hands on.
I want to be hands on, and I mean, I wasn't so much into fine art. I was really into music, so I
Mm,
decided I'm going to move to California and I'm going to go to this school called Pyramid. That's going to be a music production school because I want to get into production and DJing and I want to make music. So I dropped out and I went and with the help of some friends and my mom, and I moved out to the Bay Area to try to see if I can get into the school. And then the whole California adventure started. I moved to Hawaii. I like nothing really ever took shape the way I had envisioned because I was just like life started and I was like having to kind of survive and get little small jobs. And I worked at a coffee shop. I was, I lost my place with my roommate. I was homeless until I moved to Hawaii. I was homeless in Hawaii for a little bit. I just like I bounced around so much, but I was like so used to it because I moved around a lot as a kid. So I could go somewhere and I could recreate myself. I can, I had grit. Like I could survive somewhere, but
Mm.
finding a place where I could really settle roots took a lot longer. But I'm glad that I went the way I did because I know I could have learned a lot in school. It could have probably really served me, but the way that I learned eventually led me to the place that I got to in my art, which is like I don't feel like there's a lot of constraints in how I create. I just kind of because I learned this all on my own, like
Yeah,
cinema in Unreal in
self-taught.
Touch Designer. I just figured it out. I just like I mess around enough where I know what works and I know what doesn't, and I try not to think too much about it, and I end
Mm.
up just making something that I like.
For sure. Do you okay, that's super fascinating and interesting. Thank you for sharing your origin. It's really it puts a nice context into the whole conversation. So when you were kind of discovering yourself and kind of going through this experience was, how did you find the softwares? Because really like yes, we're like, we are creating art and we are doing these experiences, but as any artisan, as any artist, it always comes down to the tools, right? It's like, how good are
Mhm.
you with the tool? How much experience you have with the tool? What can you do in the tool that other people can't do, right? I think that it's a big part of our industry and kind of like, it's also like the exploratory aspect of the tool. You go inside of a program, inside of a DCC, inside of an environment, and you're just kind of like, what can I do? Like, yes, like it's always that experience. Do you do you remember where you learned some of them? Do you know who introduced you? Like, kind of give us a little bit of a intro to Cinema 4D, to Touch Designer, to Unreal. I'm sure different periods, but just out of a general kind of thing.
Mhm. Um, well, it starts with a story. My friends and I, we started a collective called the White Cube Society, and
Nice.
it was based off of a dream that I had when I was like 16, of like traveling to the future with my tribe, and we were nomadic, and it felt like I was there for like a couple of weeks. It wasn't just like a short. I woke up out of a dream. It was like I lived another life for like a little while.
Wow.
And I told that dream to one of my best friends, Yuto, and I just met him, and I met this kid, and I just moved to LA, and I met this kid at my 24th birthday party. And the White Cube Society was kind of born a couple months later when we decided we wanted to throw an event.
Mm-hmm.
And we threw enough events, they're little underground parties, and eventually we got a warehouse in South Central LA, in like South LA, the old Hostess factory. So we took over like a 10,000 square foot space in the old Hostess factory, and we started building our own houses. Like we
Mm-hmm.
had houses that had bridges between them, and we were like, we had like a whole Wild Boys like situation. Like 8 or 9 of us lived there, and we had like a really cool thing going on. But we had these philosophies that we had made up, like completely pseudoscience philosophies. And and one of the things that we came up with was this theory. It's a theoretical particle called the magnuclei, and the
Mm-hmm.
power it gave off was called magnucleotic energy. And magnucleotic energy was, think of it as like, it's represented by something crossing a dimensional field. So like
Okay.
a circle squared, that
Mm-hmm.
ratio, extruded would be a sphere cubed, right?
Mm.
So the act of that symbolic, um, um, that symbol crossing a dimension and turning into an actual solid, a shape, that crossing into another dimension, it's what we called cross dimensionality. And you can only
Mm.
do that with
Wow.
magnucleotic energy. So the magnuclei was the sphere inside the cube. That's how we
I love it.
represented the magnuclei. And it represented something crossing a dimension. So, like, um, you could do that with anything that's going from one dimension to another. Like it goes from me, from my mind, to creating something, to you observing it, to a group of people feeling it, is like a cross
Mm-hmm.
dimensional pathway. So we created this thing called the Magnuclei, and we would go to festivals dressed like time travelers, and we would tell stories about the
About the
Magnuclei.
Magnuclei. Fucking
Yeah,
A.
so we would tell stories about the Magnuclei, how we were trapped in this time zone. We had this really beautiful ramen cart that we welded and used all this like found cupboards and drawers and stuff. It was the dopest piece of fabricated. Like we were really into fabricating at the time.
I
So we
love
had
it.
this ramen cart. We would make tea at festivals and play games, and it had all these like secret doors, and we'd make phone calls off of it. And it was just such a fun time in our early 20s where we got tickets to our favorite festivals to just go and fool around with people. And then we had some really serious moments with people where people would like bury their ashes of their friends with us after connecting with them
Wow.
next to their car. And
Wow.
like
Wow.
it went from like jokes to like really serious and like really beautiful moments. But we were called the White Cube Society, and so after like a day of trolling with my friends, a couple of us would split off and put on lab coats and go with our PA system, our like a little battery powered PA system, and go and stand next to like a piece of art and just like talk pseudoscience in our lab coats like scientists and just make stuff up. We would just bullshit. Like we're coming down off acid, coming down off LSD, and we'd just be like on one, just like referencing each other's work, just making
I
stuff
love
up.
it.
Just like
I love
it wasn't until 1986 where you wrote The Impertinence of Time, and we would just reference each other's made up like catalog
That's
of
so
books that
awesome.
we've written. And eventually we came up with the Magnuclei, and it just stuck. It just stuck with us, and we would do it at our parties, and like we eventually came up with our own philosophies about things that were all made up, but it was kind of like we were in on an inside joke with God. Like it was just a joke for all of us, but eventually the things we were talking about started showing up in our lives. Like one of our mascots was the squid. It was just like a joke. It started out as like my friend, one day we're looking at the rafters of our warehouse, and my friend comes up and he's like, if you throw a squid up there, it'll just clean the whole ceiling. Yeah, just throw a couple squid, like they'll just suck it right up. And we're like, look at him, we're like, yeah, we should get a couple squid. And he goes, yeah, they're really good with cats, man, very intuitive. And eventually the squid became like our unofficial mascot, and then the squid started showing up everywhere in our lives, everywhere. Like it became such a joke that we're like going into festivals and there's giant squid statues, like metal moving arms, like beautiful pieces of work, and you're just like, you've seen this giant squid. And it became like a joke, right? And so like that's how like that cross dimensionality kept showing up, is like in our words and in our actions. All of us are in on the whole white cube. The whole cube is in on this inside joke with us, and here it is showing it to us over and over again. It just felt like it was like this joke was something greater than ourselves. So the Magnuclei was part of that. And so one day, like I'm like after like years of this, I go to Burning Man by myself without anybody from the cube, and in the pamphlet I see squid anointment ceremony, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go, this is too funny. So I pull up and I'm late, so everyone's got the little squid ink on their foreheads, and I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, this girl's like, just chill out, it's just a joke. And I'm like, I know it's a joke, you don't know it's a joke, do you know what? Okay, who told you about this joke? And they're like, you got to talk to Daniel or something. And I couldn't find Daniel. But eventually, like this, like these like theories and these things got so embedded in us. And eventually the cube broke up, but I stayed very close with a couple of the cube members. And this Magnuclei stayed a thing. So like that's where the name Orb Seer comes from, is like I was in the cube, and eventually I got kicked out of the cube, and I was like the orb looking in, and I was the orb seer because I could see like inside, I could see within the cube, but here I am outside of it. So it's still like magnucleotic in a sense. And one day we were doing the Q&As, and the girl was really talking about somebody was doing a Q&A, and she was asking about like what's inside the cube. And I was like, and my friend Mayan, who was doing the Q&A with us, she goes, this one's a real young orb seer. And it's like I just love that word. I loved that saying. So orb seer stuck with me, and eventually I took it on as my artist name. um and then and so like years later, well, when I was in the cube, I started learning cinema 4D, and the first thing I made was the Magnuclei. My buddy just got like a torrented hacked version of cinema, and I just like put a sphere inside of a cube, and it was the first render I ever made. It was like my favorite thing still that I ever made. And I still make them, like they're still part of my show. Nobody would know that when you see my show, the Magnuclei is still a part of it,
I
which
love
is
it.
like hilarious to me because my work itself is cross-dimensional. Like you're seeing my work in 3D, and I would have never guessed that this run-on joke would have led me to my entire creative path being an act of cross-dimensionality, of magnucleotic energy, of like crossing into a different dimension with actual 3D work. Um, so I tell this story because like it started out with just me like kind of joking and making jokes about these made up particles and stuff, and next thing you know, I'm showing these particles in 3D in a made up space, and I'm like, we're diving deep into the philosophy of, but they don't even know. They don't even know that this just started as a joke with my friends.
I love it. I love it. That is an awesome story. I was wondering how we were going to get into Cinema 4D there for a little bit, but you brought it back beautifully. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great story.
That's a
Um,
long story.
yeah, if it's a good inspirational story for all of us that do acid with our friends and have inside jokes. It leads to something. It leads to something.
It did, man. It
I
led to a
love
whole
it.
career path and
Fuck
purpose.
yeah,
Like it,
dude.
yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So okay, so you're now getting into you're getting into 3D design. You're bringing in your past experiences into your art. You're creating yourself your style and everything. When did you shift into creating the Seer Studio and creating basically massive commercial works, huge clients from Framework to Travis Scott. You're doing stuff with a Sphere. You're kind of like blasting off into this world of motion graphics, 3D, and client-based work. What was some of the catalyst of that? How did the Seer Studios start? Give us a little bit of a intro to that.
Well, yeah, it started really with like I started making stuff for the screen at the tower right after quarantine. I had this The show was a huge success. And one of my friends who I met during that process of building the screen, Yvonne, he saw the work and he was like, "Yo," like he's one of my biggest like supporters. He saw like the vision, he saw the work, and he was like, "Yo, if you can do that, then you can do this." And he kind of threw me into the world of VJing, and I got really into VJing, and he's like, "Hey, can you make stuff like this?" And it was like labs and stuff for this artist. And I was like, "Yeah." I mean, I didn't take client work. I did like short, like during quarantine when I was putting out Octane stuff, people would hire me to do like a poster or a flyer or like a
Right.
short visualizer, and started kind of getting my feet wet. But it wasn't until Yvonne was like, "Yo, I need you to make this stuff for like Hard Summer, or for like this artist, for whoever," that I was like, "Oh, okay." Like he started showing me that you can make really really good money just making
Mm.
art. And so
Mm.
he was the first person, because he's VJ'd for everybody. Like he was a Skrillex, Kaytranada, Lil
Nice.
Nas X. Like he's VJ'd for all, like Beyonce. He's been video guys for everybody. Like he's a ninja, because you wouldn't really know about him because he doesn't really put himself out there as like a company, but he's a one man company. Like
Mm-hmm.
he puts in a lot of work. Um, he needs a little help with his branding and stuff. Like I've been telling him I'll make him a website because his client list would be insane. So we did a commercial for Audemars PK for AP, the watch company, and that was like our
Mm-hmm.
first big paycheck where it was like, oh damn, dude, like this was we could do this. Like he produced it, I made the visuals for it, we projected onto a wall of water, and guys shot golf balls at it, and it ended up being like a really cool commercial. And
Hell yeah.
it was awesome. It was a really cool job, and him and I started working really closely together. And then he sent me on a European tour with the Kid Leroy, and he started putting me into like these places where I got to travel the world. I got to make cool art for cool people, and then he would introduce me to like future clients, like the people like See You Later. They're the ones that put me in for Travis Scott. He would put me in with like raw cereal, where I got to like he introduced me to Amish, who I met Anders, at the office, and he started putting me into these rooms with people that would eventually sign me up for work. Like I worked with Amish and Frameworks on like countless projects, a lot of Latin artists, and I met him through Yvonne, and he started putting me into the right rooms, the right people, and like really helping me like introduce myself to this production world. And then I started just like getting better at it, and but like the goal was always to like keep working on the stereoscopic stuff and producing my own shows. So it was always kind of a means to an end, and like I love producing for people, but like the goal of mine is I just want to make something of my own for people to experience, because it's always like it's my purpose, you know. Like I love making stuff for clients, and I've been really busy lately. Luckily, like I've been able to, like, after the move and everything, stay busy and start saving up, because I'm also having a baby. You told me earlier you're having a baby. I'm having
I
a
have a
baby
baby.
in yeah, you have a baby. See, my partner
Yeah.
and I are having a child in 3 weeks.
Yes,
So
yes,
right
I want
now,
to talk to you about that in the second portion
yeah,
because it's such a great topic.
yeah.
How many weeks?
So 3 weeks.
Wow, dude. Oh, you're right on the precipice.
Yeah,
Exciting,
dude.
exciting,
So right now
exciting.
is like my last little tail end to like get as much work done as I can, and
For sure.
get ready for this, life changing um, occurrence and event. So yeah, just it happened with Yvonne really like getting me in the right rooms, and it's been 3 years of doing visuals and tour and VJing full time. Like that's I haven't had to have a job since quarantine, luckily. And it comes with its ups and downs and its struggles. I'm learning a lot about budgeting and stuff, because when you're a freelancer, it's only the work you get is the work that you find. And luckily, I have good people that believe in me, and like my work. Um, my goal this year is to save up more money and just keep working on doper and doper projects, like, and also just keep learning and growing my tool set. So I'm learning Touch Designer recently because I just
Nice.
love the fluidity of it.
Oh, you'll love it.
Unreal is also there, but Unreal's got a different learning curve. But Cinema 4D is like my paintbrush. It's like the one where I'm like, I can get I can make what I want and what I envision with it. But eventually, I do want to move to more real time workflows.
For sure. Super cool. Yeah, I mean, Seven Seer, you guys are doing really awesome stuff. I'm going to kind of just show a little bit of your website. Definitely go check out the website. It's a really nice one, too. Just big studio work, really nice services that they do, and just big projects, you mentioned you were touring, VJing all over the world. That's like such a nice aspect of being able to VJ and getting to be able to go to cool places. Coming from, like you said, making work for yourself and, going into this deeper into this 3D visual stereoscopic kind of world. When you do work for commercial clients and when you are getting work to work for artists where maybe you're more of an operator and less of a content creator, is there anything that feels, I mean, obviously it's different, but like, can you put your finger on like where the difference is and how you navigate that difference?
Well, I got distracted by the website because it looks so good.
Sorry.
Can you ask
It
that
does look
question
really
again?
nice. It is a really nice website. Um, when you are working on bigger commercial works for bigger clients, for commercial stuff, when you're kind of like being more of an operator, less of a content creator, how do you navigate that? How do you navigate the difference and focus on the job that needs to be done? It's a totally different experience.
Yeah, as an operator, I just got back from China like 2 days ago, and I did like a week long, and we did this festival. Like the screen was huge. I mean, it was like a three-quarters replica of the Coachella main stage this year, so with
Wow.
the curves and everything, and it blew my mind. They did it on 4K. I don't know how they figured that out. It was sick though. But I like working from home. I like making stuff from my desk, but there's something that I really enjoy about being on site and like having to feel like that that structure of I have to be there at this time, I have to deliver at this time, I have to build a show at this time, and like being more focused on the procedure of delivering an event versus just delivering, a Dropbox link with all the content. Like there's something that I like about the action of like I have to get there, lobby call, like I've got to make sure I eat right, got to sleep, and like, just refining the process until the day of show so that I'm as focused and my nerves are as like, like my nerves are regulated and I can just be like, okay, time to put on an experience. Like I don't have to like getting there to that point is fun for me, and I feel engaged with the process versus like when I'm making content at home, I can, just kind of in my time, staying creative, like but just kind of being able to do it as I go versus like, no, there's a procedure to how you deliver when you're on site at a festival, and I really enjoy that process.
Very nicely said. Okay, we're gonna move into your set here, but before we do, I just want to kind of talk just briefly, and I think we'll get into a more deeper discussion about this in the second part. But you work with a company called Reality Center and a few other companies I saw that you also do some interesting stuff with, but this was the one that really kind of stuck out to me. And they do, I mean, what they say is multisensory wellness, digital psychedelics. So can you tell us a little bit about, what it means to you to work in the field of digital psychedelics, higher dimensional experiences? You mentioned that the 3D is a higher dimension experience. We're spiritual people. We want to have a higher experience in this lifetime, and obviously, entheogens and altered states of reality are a really good way to get into that. But some people can't, right? Some people don't want to. Some people are scared. Some people just can't or don't. So digital, giving people the experience through the digital realm is so powerful. And I'd love to hear a little bit about your work with Reality Center and kind of in general what you think about that.
I mean, Reality Center is Reality Center is run by a few of my best friends, Tarun Raj and Jonathan Chia, huge supporters. Earlier when I was telling you that we used to throw warehouse parties, the first warehouse party we threw was at Tarun's warehouse.
Nice.
So he's a homie of a decade plus, and I remember back in the day they used to have this vibrating dolphin that would run into this transducer, and it was just like, so for parties where you would just like trip and like hug this thing and like get the vibe, and that 10 years later is now a full-blown like just groundbreaking like
product or
school of thought almost, like experience, because it's like they're getting into the vibration and of like what it means to be human, and vibrations of your voice, what it means to be you. And I mean they're cutting edge. So like I've seen them grow as a company, but as like humans for the last year. And Tarun has been one of my biggest allies since the beginning of the White Cubes and of me personally as an artist. And he's like a real cornerstone for our friend group in LA. And they got the facility in Santa Monica, like I want to say, 3 years ago. They just had their 3-year anniversary, and they're really stand-up people. Like during the fires, they were like a hub for donations. Like they really stand by their word, and they really are those people. Like I have a lot of respect for them. And their experience that they have there at the Reality Center, like I highly recommend if you're in LA to go to Reality Center and experience the vibe bed. So it's like a water bed with transducers underneath, and then you have a LED light therapy bar above you. So it's blinking at this pulse rate that coincides with the pulse rate of the speakers. So it's like this super sensorial experience, and that's just the bed. They have like other things like a voice recognition. So like it's a very customized experience for the person. But I've been on that bed for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you're never going to get closer to having like a full-blown psychedelic experience sober as you are on that. Like your brain really starts putting in the work to make this like like an auditory visual hallucination. Like you'll start seeing things that you've never seen. Like my Yvonne, the guy who I was telling you about earlier, we were practicing like just playing around like martial arts, just and his eye got scratched in the process, and I don't know how, but he scratched his eye on Ryan from Liminal, the owner of Liminal Space, on his birthday.
Hmm.
Me and Yvonne were playing like Ninja, and he scratched his eye. So the following week, and this really sucked because we work in 3D, and it would suck if he couldn't see 3D.
Right.
So I took him to Tarun's house, and Tarun had this one of his vibrating or his pulsing lights, and it's like this big, and it's just like super bright, but you don't look directly at it. We bounce it off a wall, and you just look at the wall, and like the
Hmm.
pulse rate of the light eventually becomes very like hypnotic. And
Wow.
so we did a session with Tarun before we went out that night at Tarun's house, and it healed Yvonne's eye. Like
Wow. Wow. Wow.
it didn't like it, he we were afraid he was going to lose his vision to some extent, because once you scratch your
Hmm.
cornea, your vision kind of starts to it can get bad kind of quick. But it healed his eye, and he was able to, yeah, he just hasn't had problems with it since.
That's
And
amazing.
Yeah, what they're doing there is really special. I think they're finally getting the recognition after, a decade. And Don Estes, he's like the founder of Reality Center, of the technologies, like the main developer of the technologies that they harness there, and a partner at Reality Center. Older guy, genius, like super super genius. He's finally getting the recognition that he deserves for developing something that's like so fringe for so long, and
Hmm.
now it's like
Hmm.
become like a real staple in the community and in LA. I think it's about to blow up. And
Yeah.
I
Light
love
therapy.
how we have that in our circle, like people that think in these ways, and when you meet him, he's very much that person.
Light therapy is a really powerful thing. I think there's lots of different applications and uses for it, but it is a very powerful thing. I've been working with the Cyberdelic Society, and their goal is to kind of bridge the gap between psychedelics and technology, right? And kind of like the same ethos of like bringing psychedelics to a digital realm in order not to necessarily duplicate the experience, but to allow people to have knowledge and experience it. And it's all science based and research based. Um, and we just did something with a dome where it was a piece by I can't remember the artist, but it was also very like pulsating, frequency based kind of mandalas. And you just kind of like I've also experienced lots of different light therapies and stuff, but sometimes you just kind of like it's like the perfect sweet spot, and you just like really get into it. It's really powerful,
Hmm.
and especially for people that have done ceremonies and been in infused or ingested into psychedelic experiences and stuff that shaped me as a person and you as well. It's really awesome to get to experience these experiences and be like, oh, this is legit. Like this actually makes me feel somewhat into this kind of experience, and
Hmm.
that's really powerful. Super cool. I love all the stuff that you're doing, and I'm super excited to see what you have ready for us here for the set portion. Okay, awesome. So we're gonna check out Orbs set here. Please let us know what you have ready for us.
Yeah. Let's see. So maybe I should show you the piece that I just recently posted. I mean, you can pull it up on Instagram, or I can show you here. It started off as just like a hill, and I really wanted to see a hill move like this. And so I started working on it, and then I wanted to show, like, I don't know, the underlying nature, like I call it nature versus nurture, because it is like this natural scene, but it's also kind of like tumultuous, I guess is the word, where it feels like you couldn't just lay on this grassy hill unscathed. There is a little bit of a dangerous element, and that's kind of how I was like starting to see how the world is. Like there is peace in between, like there is moments of peace, but then there
Mm,
is just like this something that you just got to be careful about. And it's kind of how I see the world that we raise children in.
mm,
um so yeah, I really liked it. It took me a while to get like the grass to sit in the right place. Like this is the V1 of like figuring out how all the normals and everything align, and like
mm-hmm,
the speed of it, what feels natural, what feels calming. Like it was a big
mm.
test. But I really I
Cool.
really enjoyed making this piece.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's
Yeah.
see. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of show how I did that to achieve that cool slow.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I started off with a plane, you know,
Hmm.
boring. And I like messing with noises. I really love noises for textures, for pretty much anything. I just use a lot of noise. And so we just drop in a noise, and we'll just do lines to see what we got going. And up this texture somewhere like there, up the like up the segments like 250. And then we'll animate the noise. And
Nice.
and we'll go 3 negative. Just like make like a, something that just feels got a little bit of motion. Try not to make it peak too hard. Right. So that's how we get like the initial plane. And then it's a lot of tweaking from here on out with fields. So spherical field, like I'll stack another noise on a noise field.
Mm.
Um, um, where is that? Am I missing it? Oh, shader field. And then I'll just add another noise to that noise.
Nice.
-3.
Cool. Get like some more peaks and valleys.
Yeah, just to kind of add some, and then have it moving in like a different direction. So that's how I kind of got the ocean waves.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, it's too crazy. So let's see, 1, -2, and then I'll just change this noise to something like gaseous. And now we get a little bit more unique. And then with that, shader field, and add something like another, we'll do formula field.
Cool.
Try different overlays. So now we get these cool little textures here. And then I'll up this to like 4, 4, 4. Oops, no. And then
Sick.
get something like that. And now we have like just a plane.
It's not boring anymore.
No. And with this, like maybe I'll get the speeds to go against each other. So -3 and then 2. Just do something counter to the initial noise. And then maybe slow down the noise. Let's do this 350. And then 1.2, something like that. 1.4. A lot of random values.
For sure. It's a lot of experimentation when you're working with noise, right?
Yeah. 0.8. I use noise in Touch Designer. Like I love noise across. Noise is always good, but Formula Field is adding something, but not enough. So maybe Just turn that off for now. Let's try this again. See, a little slower, a little more. Then I'm going to put, instead of using a formula field, group this, and then add a formula inside the null.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
And then change the size of it. We'll do 2.
Whoa.
Something like that, and then rotate it to give it a little. Maybe do like a. And now we're getting these kinds of like strange looking waves. So we'll pause that, and then I already brought my Octane scatter in. And it's just a bunch of plants and stuff that I found and retextured and stuff. So I'm just going to drop this plane in as my distribution, as my surface. So it'll drop a couple little logs in there. Should all be to scale. And then I'll drop another one in there. And they're kind of heavy, so I'll just do them one by one to make sure.
Nice.
I'll just start dropping some flowers.
Nice.
But you got to make sure all the rotations and everything. And then just for colors, I just dropped the sunlight. I'm so curious. I never watch how people really, like I watch tutorials sometimes, but I never watch how people make stuff to optimize things. I just kind of do what I've learned, but I bet you if somewhere you were to watch me from like the Cinema 4D Institute of Creation, they look at me and be like, you are a fool. Why are you doing it like that? You know what I mean?
That's the beauty, though.
To see how to do it.
That's the beauty. Yeah, I mean, there's a million ways to skin a cat, right? There's gonna be an optimized way and there's gonna be a non-optimized way, but at the end of the day, you get a skinned cat, so it doesn't necessarily matter too much.
Has that been confirmed?
Last time I skinned a cat, I used I'm kidding. Yeah.
Method 9642.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's I know what you mean. It's like I definitely get like irked when I watch people use some things and like they're using it wrong or they're using it like unoptimized, but I think it's like a matter of, at the end of the day, it's a matter of the final result and like how important it is for you to have things run smoothly, right? Like if it's running smoothly for you and it's not crashing, then you're not really doing anything wrong. You're using it as it is. If it's not managing to do what you want to do and it's crashing and you're not getting the result, then it's time to maybe, follow a tutorial or get advice from the Cinema 4D Institute, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like with Touch Designer, there's definitely ways that
to optimize. But when it comes to real time, you really have to know what you're doing per se, because if it isn't optimized, then that's when you start getting into places where it doesn't run well, right? Like you can't just have it heavy and just render it and have it take a long time. I don't know if you know this. There's this podcast called the Visual Cast. We have a bunch of guests from different places and different fields.
I've heard.
So definitely, there's a few Cinema 4D episodes. I'll send them to you after our episode.
Yeah, down. So how did you get started on doing this podcast? Like what was the initial, you're like, oh, no one's doing this. I love
it. I love turning it around on me. This is great. Honestly, there's a really awesome podcast by Sean Bowes. And he does kind of like a visual oriented podcast where he's interviewed VJs. He interviews a lot of different multidisciplinary kind of things, mostly geared around live events.
Uh-huh.
And that kind of was like, I love what he was doing, but it's much more produced, it's much more short, and I'm more of a fan of like, I'm not a fan of Joe Rogan as much anymore. Obviously now he's kind of lost the plot, but that idea of long form conversation and like, you know, in depth kind of like conversation with people. There's so much depth to people, especially artists. And when you have a long form conversation with them, you really can get into the nitty gritty of like who they are and what they're all about. And then I didn't see any podcast that was showing or sharing kind of like the process with like a screen
Mm-hmm.
share. And that was about it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I've been wanting to do it for like 4 or 5 years, and I just last year was like, okay, I got to do it.
Nice.
Yeah.
What have you learned on the process of
Oh man, that's such a great question. Um, I think I've learned that there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. I think that's probably the best thing I've learned. Yeah, you know, it's just people are so interesting. Um, and I think I've also learned that there's so many similarities between us all. You know, kind of like, you know, between the pursuit of wanting to express yourself, wanting to create beautiful installations, wanting to make interactive experiences, wanting to make software, wanting to make things that people use, plugins. I think that there's like this inert need or want when it comes to self expression and when it comes to um, the need to, like, you know, be seen, but not necessarily from your ego perspective, but more from like, you know, from the very natural place of like, I have something to say and that's valid. Doesn't matter what it is.
hmm
And then I think a lot of people really just want the world to be better and more beautiful, and like there's like this really strong need for wanting to, you know, inspire others to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I agree. That's
So
that's
I'm
kind of
gonna
where I
turn it
create.
back to you. We're basically you're using Octane scatter to clone or scatter objects across the plane. Is that would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
So just using noise as a way to scale all the different clones. So this noise is being scaled by this, and so I found good patterns that kind of work
Feel natural.
in kind of thicknesses,
Hmm.
so that it
Okay.
feels natural. Like with the little in betweens. Um, and I started doing with the grass first because the grass I wanted to have just different sizes and slightly different colors.
Mm-hmm.
So I start with the grass, and I kind of get it to cover as much of the landscape as possible while still feeling like, I guess, unique. And then I started populating it with more bushes to kind of add different textures, as you can
Mm.
see here.
Raises it up. Super
Yeah, it
cool.
just raises it, makes it look a little bit more natural. It looks kind of like a golf course now until you add flowers, and then you add just some irregular bushes. Um, the challenging part was making the cloner feel like it's not just like every single blade of grass is facing the same direction, and
Right.
you start to see patterns in it. So
What do
creating
you do for that?
irregularities um, in the rotate of the like the grass clumps, I would just put another noise shader and just bring the scale down really small
Gotcha.
so that
Interesting.
they're turned just in a very small.
Smart.
Yeah, just so that you can't find the pattern, because it was really easy for me to spot the patterns in the grass. So I started with a plane like this, and then I just like got really into distorting the noise of what was driving the the plane underneath it and making it feel like it was a wave. I think that's what I spent the most time on, was making the plane feel like it's actually a wave. And also like making the plants, like I had so many issues with the noise, like the plane underneath the noise was making all the plants do like these weird little rotations, and I couldn't figure out why. Like why it took me like, honestly, I worked on the hill for like a week just trying to get it right. Because when I care about something, I like obsess over like a
For
personal
sure.
piece, you know.
For sure. Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
didn't want to put out something that I didn't really like. I wasn't 100. Like I put out so many art pieces that I'm like, okay, cool, it's done. Like it's good enough. With that one, I really wanted it to be like, no, this one's important to me. So I realized that I just had to, as I'm building it, I can render it. I can test it at 350 segments by 350 segments. But when I render, I have to boost it all the way to 1,000, because the more subdivisions there are, the less those little the plant is gonna like tweak out when it's in that subdivision, when it's within that square. If there's bigger subdivisions, like it just makes the plant do weird things on those axes as it's doing this, you know.
Interesting.
And that took me so long to figure out. I just had to up the amount of segments, and it fixed the issue. I want to do this again with different landscapes, and like my goal is to make it look more real and more real, to the point where it's indiscernible from like an actual like forest. Like I really want to make it feel like I took a video. The first one is like a good test. Like I know I can do better, but I was just trying to get like the motion of the noise and everything working. But like I want to keep going with this series and start and doing things that look like, oh, that's a crazy video. How did he do that? Must have been some post After Effects, you know. But I want to make it feel like, no, this is real. So it's just a start, but yeah, I really like the process. It's very hypnotizing. I just like working with like natural elements, because I do so much like film layer, like super slick looking colorful stuff. And monochromatic, but I realized I haven't done a lot of nature. And I like nature. Like I like natural looking things. So yeah, I start out with this hill, and so I'll just turn these off, just keep manipulating my plane, and I'll just create like a material so I can see the plane first.
Ooh, trippy.
Yeah, I'll just make like, just so I can see the curves a little bit more. And yeah, I'll just keep messing with the displacer until I get it in a place where it's, let's see, we'll do, I guess we'll do another shader field. There we go.
Nice.
So
Looks like some desert valley. I love it.
yeah, let's see. Let's try. I like combining and seeing what noises combine with other noises, and then There we go. Now we got like a little bit of rolling because they're counteracting each other like water does. So it's swelling, you know. And then
Beautiful.
and that's how I got
I
that
love
shape.
it. Kind of like getting them out there, huh?
Yeah, that's how I got that shape in the first one is I just like used the formula and kind of stretched it. And then if you pause, you can get a really cool still. I'll just copy this texture. Add a ground texture. Let's see. Let's copy that one on there. Just for now. And then yeah, so and then I just like dropped some rocks on there to and with a collision tag, and I just like had the rock kind of roll around until I saw it was doing
Nice.
cool stuff. So yeah, it's a little bit too rocky, so I'll just, or it's like too,
Peaky.
yeah, peaky.
Yo, it's peaking, bro. Your plane is peaking.
Let's see. So I'll just up the scale. Up the scale. Oh, you know what you worked on that I remember?
Yeah, what?
Matt Stefanina's event.
Oh yeah. Wow. Were you
Yeah,
there?
yeah, I was there. I gave you some clips of mine to throw into that initial,
No,
like the opening reel.
no fucking way.
Yeah,
Wait, did we meet though?
no, we didn't meet, but he told me about you because I was like, "Who's operating?" He told me your name. That's why I remembered it.
That's so funny. Yeah, lovely guy. I wish we
Yeah,
could work
he's
together. I really want to do some. He did a lot of mocap stuff, like mocap stuff, and he was working with a studio in Florida that I'm very close with, and I was kind of telling them
uh,
like, let's do this live on stage with a mocap suit, and
uh,
I've been trying to convince him to do it, but he never got back to me about it. Um, Probably is a little bit not probably not as comfortable to wear. But me and my wife had a whole show with live mocap that was awesome, super cool. Um,
that's
yeah,
cool.
super cool guy. How do you know him?
Through the NFT space, I did a show in Miami for Art Basel, and that's where we
Oh,
initially
nice,
met.
nice.
Yeah, and then he's just always been super supportive. He's really really good dude.
Really, really nice guy. Yeah,
Yeah, but I ended up at that event and I got to see the show. Those laser dudes were cool.
super cool. They were so
That,
cool.
that
They
was
were
so
so
rad. I was
cool.
like, it's like how are they so in sync?
It's so insane. They're like robots. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was impressed. I'd seen that online. When I saw it in person, I was like, damn, that was a cool event. There we go. So that's I kind of toned down the shape a little bit. Boom. And then maybe up this a little bit. And then at the end of it, I put like a delay modifier on the fields so that there's always like a kind of flow to it versus like, because right now it's kind of, I mean, that's kind of sexy. I like that. And then I'll automate this to kind of turn. And then I always end up putting it through Topaz and like doubling my amount of frames and upscaling the fuck out of it. So I end up
Do you do
like,
that? You do that as a workflow? You render it at like 1920 and you just update it to 4K through Topaz?
yeah, yeah.
Smart.
Um, Yeah, and I'll do. I didn't do light passes on the last. Actually, I did. I did a couple light passes, but um, it's always running through topaz. It always just makes it sharper, and
Mm-hmm.
so and I usually end up getting the speed because I can always just like speed it up
Mm-hmm.
if it's too slow, but it's never
Gotcha.
really
So
too
you'll
slow.
get more frames to be able to control the speed a little bit. That's smart.
Yeah,
Very
I
smart.
Topaz is clutch.
Yeah.
I like to make perfect loops too for most things that I do, but the hill
Mm-hmm.
was just I didn't with that one. But um, my girlfriend always asked me like how I do this because she understood touch designer
Mm-hmm.
more intuitively than cinema. Cinema is there's it does feel like there's a lot more going on with touch designer. You can kind of nodes connect to nodes and you can kind of get around it more. But I like to say that there's a lot more mathematics to when you want to make a perfect loop than you think.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
um, and I love math. I mean, I like to do math in my head. I'm not a trigonometry major, but I do like applying math to how I do what I do. So that's kind of the fundamentals to how I made the hill
Super cool, dude.
here, and
Thank you
then
for sharing this with us.
yeah, and then I'll just find a couple cool camera angles, thicken it up where it needs to be, um, like where there's not enough grass, up the amount of grass or up the scale, but yeah, it was just a lot of tweaking to make it feel like it was really thick and like alive.
Mm.
The next thing I want to do is make the flowers flow a little bit more, have a little bit more wind. But the way I was able to create wind is just creating like a particle system of just like little leaf clones and just kind of
Nice.
dropping them on the plane.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Orb. That was awesome. It's really nice to see people's processes and kind of get a look into kind of how they do things. And we had a nice chat in between as well. There's always a lot of ways to skin that cat, but nobody skins the cat like you, and that's what makes it special. So, um, I wanted to kind of in our last portion here, and I know we're a little bit pressed for time, so we're gonna try and somehow fly through these, even though they're topics of immense discussion, and I'm
No
sure we could probably
rush.
talk for hours about them. No rush, perfect. Um, you are becoming a father, and we kind of mentioned that before. It's very exciting. I'm super happy for you and your partner. Very excited for you. It's nothing I say will prepare you for it. Nothing I, give you any advice, anything. It's really one of those things that's like super subjective and an extreme experience. It's like one of those, the first acid trip, it's the first mushroom trip. It's like, it's being born, it's like, it's this experience is so potent and powerful and difficult and challenging, but all of those things are going to make you a better person, are going to make you into a better artist, and you're also going to raise this little person and make them into a better person and the best person. And you know I, where I wanted to take this and kind of bring you into the discussion here is the way that I the esoteric aspect of becoming a father to me was like kind of grasping the grasping at the threads of like time and like focus, because really like the first I'm only my son's only two and a bit, but like the first year is like you have no time and you have no focus, but at the same time you're having these super intense and crazy massive experiences with birth and development and consciousness and language and all these things. And it's like, you know I always I always wanted to be able to like take those things and push them into my art, but I never had time. And it's like vicarious, like it will happen and it kind of just is me now, so that will be my art now too. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just wanted to ask you, like, what is your are you I'm sure you're excited. What are you kind of like looking forward to in becoming a father? What are you kind of like anticipating or not anticipating, or what is your view on this whole experience?
Great questions, man. I mean, I'm anticipating a lot of sleepless nights to start.
Yes.
Um,
Being a VJ
I'm
helps. Being a VJ helps. You're kind of used to it already.
Yeah, it did. It did. I'm anticipating a lot of, compromising with my partner about roles and duties, and like. But I'm also anticipating us like really falling in and doing our best, and like
I hope.
teamwork like crazy. Like I know that we're gonna do really good. I'm really excited to just show up and do my absolute best to make this like a really fun part of the experience, even though I'm sure new fathers will tell you it's a lot, and it's very intense, and it's hard, and I'm excited to take on that challenge and make it a fun experience, a fun learning experience. um um I think the thing that that excites me the most is watching my partner be a mom. Like that's really exciting 'cause she's already so nurturing, and she's such like a
Oh,
sweet human being.
oh.
And watching like a little being fall in love with her the way I love her, or like differently, like a baby will love her, is gonna be such a joy to watch because she's so fucking lovable. Like she's so lovable. I
Oh
can
yeah.
only imagine what this little person's gonna think when she sees her, because she is absolutely like the sweetest, the most awesome person.
That's
So
beautiful.
I'm excited to see that happen. Like obviously she's gonna love me. I'm gonna be dad, but like watching her love mom, because mom is so awesome and such like a
You're having a girl?
rock star. Yeah, we're having a girl.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. Fuck
Yeah, I think
yeah.
a girl is the best thing for me, so I can learn that side of things. And I've
Mm.
had sisters, and I'm ready for a girl. But yeah, we're having a girl.
Oh yeah.
We're really excited. She's gonna be special. So it's our first baby. She was unexpected, but
Oh.
we got ready. We picked up. We left LA. Like what's was really cool is that my sister, who just showed up, is she's having a baby 2 weeks after us.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and
That's
it's
so
funny because
nice.
she came to LA. She came to LA to surprise us with the news. When she bought her ticket to come visit us, she was just planning to come have like a birthday weekend, like her last, like, because they were trying to have a baby, her last like hoorah as like a pre-mom.
Single.
And
Yeah.
when by the time she got there, she had found out she was pregnant like a week or two before. So she surprised us with the news, and me and Sky look at each other like, do we tell
Shit.
her? And we're like, oh my god, congratulations, oh
Yeah.
my god. And we were just like, oh my god, we're having a baby too. And she told us, and we were all excited for her. And then 2 days later, we tell her, and Sky had to pretend to not be pregnant for 2 whole days, and it was the toughest thing she'd ever had to do because they're
Mm.
throwing up in the stalls next to each other. They have morning sickness together,
Oh my
but
god. That's
I
so
had to
funny.
pretend like it was just like, oh, I'm just a little sick,
Food
and my
poisoning.
sister's like, are you good? Yeah. And so we got to tell her the news 2 days after, and then we got to tell my mom the news. And so
Oh.
my mom's gonna be a grandma, back to back grandma.
Wow.
At the
Lucky
end of
grandma.
this month. Yeah, so my mom's gonna be here in a week, and she's gonna stay for a month once the babies are born.
Amazing.
Uh,
Amazing.
yeah, dude. So yeah, it's really exciting. I'm gonna be an uncle, and like I'm gonna be a dad, and then shortly after I'm gonna be an uncle, and
Mm.
yeah, we're about to have our family's about to grow. So I'm really excited
So
for that, to be able
beautiful.
to. We moved out to South Carolina so that we could have kids together and have
Mm.
cousins and like have a family unit,
Mm.
which I mean, growing up Mexican was very important, just to have cousins and cookouts and just be together. And I'm glad that me and my sister get to do this together. That's a really
So
special part
nice.
of it.
It's so
Yeah.
powerful, it's one of the biggest challenges of our lives is all our families back in Israel, and we're so far away. It's like a 17-hour flight. And whenever we do get to go to visit them, obviously now is not such a great time to go visit them, but whenever we do get to go visit them, it's always like such a nice feeling. And I also grew up, not Mexican, but I also grew up with lots of my family around and lots of cousins. And it's so, I'm so happy for you that you get to do that. And you definitely made the right choice by doing that, because it's so enriching to have your family around you, for them to be part of this child's life, for your child to have her cousins. So yeah, good for you, man. That's really awesome. And
Man.
it's great that you're still managing to maintain, if not grow, your career so powerfully. So yeah, fuck yeah, dude. I can't wait to have you back on the podcast in a year and be like, so how's it being a dad? You're like, oh, I'm fucking tired. I'm fucking suck. You know?
Yeah, right.
uh,
She's gonna be
yeah,
so lovely by then.
of
She's gonna be like
course.
walking around the house or whatever. Like,
Oh,
I'm so
you're gonna
excited to
love
meet
it.
her, dude. She's been on the
It's
other side of this skin wall for 9 months,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like she's gonna be on the other side of the skin wall soon, and I get to like, yo,
And
it's gonna
she,
be a trip.
I don't know how you view this, but I view it in the way of like, that the body is a vessel and the soul is kind of like, the soul chooses the body. It's not like just a random lottery. And if the soul chooses the body, then the soul kind of chose you and your partner to come down and be part of this experience. And just that is very empowering. It was very empowering for me to kind of have that
Mhm.
feeling of like, oh, I was chosen by this little thing to be here. And like it gave me like more feeling of not responsibility, because I had that in general as a father, but like just like more like it made the whole experience like more momentous, like there's
Mhm.
like reason for everything, and everything is kind of
Yeah.
like guided by something. And like all these lessons that I got to learn from my son, and all these like new experiences, it just kind of elevated it into the point of like, you know it's been a whole psychedelic experience, the whole
Mhm.
trajectory of this whole thing. um,
Yeah.
and I really love that kind of way of thinking of just like, that this is like, even though we also weren't really expecting, we kind of were ready for having a child. I was ready for being a father for like a few years already. But it was also kind of like unexpected. And then when you kind of get the news and it's kind of like real, it's just like, it's this new feeling that you've never felt before. Um, and yeah, and I'm just very excited for you. And I hope that you'll be at the birth, because I can't, like, that's probably still to this day one of the most insane things that I've ever seen in my life. Like, just
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't make sense, like it's so out of this world of like normalcy, this like
Yeah.
thing coming out, and it's like it's like, the vagina like squeezes all the liquid out of the little baby's like body, because it's basically, instead of air, it has liquid, and like the
Mhm.
pressure shoves, like pushes it all out, so it goes from being like an amphibian to being like like a breathing thing. And it's like, what the
Yeah.
fuck, like this crazy design, it's like unbelievable.
I've never heard of a baby being called an amphibian, but that's what they are.
Yeah, I guess like kind of in some
Wild.
way they're like a lith fish, like
Yeah.
oh man.
They're like a half tadpole, half frog, kind of humanoid. Yeah. Whoa, amphibian. She is amphibious right now. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And in
Yeah,
and
but it's.
in a moment they become, what was that?
I do believe in the soul choosing the body. I have heard that, and I do believe that there is guidance in that process too. Like your ascended masters do go like, hey, you got some options. You can go with parents number one, A and B, or you can go over there. And I feel like there is. She definitely chose us. Like I do feel like there's there is more. It's not just random chaos. Like there is a special like ordainment to it.
Totally, there is totally. I also believe in that, and that kind of shifts into another topic that I want to talk to you about. You mentioned that you had this dream when you were in the White Cube Society. and you had this dream, and that dream kind of shaped a big part of. I mean, I guess that's where the White Cube Society came from. I love
Mm.
dreams. I really put, I don't put as much power into them. I don't really utilize them like Freudian or Jungian like symbols. It's more of like just the experience of like every night and every morning, trying to like not really focus on like what the dream was, but just focus on the dream and kind of be like a little meditative in the morning of like, okay, what did I just dream? How did it feel? What was my experience? And it kind of like, in a way, kind of guides my day a little bit. Um, what is your experience with dreams, and kind of do you have like a practice with them, or is it something that you veer or put any solace into?
I love my dreams. Me and my and Sky, we're deep dreamers. Like dreaming is a huge part of both our upbringing. She is incredibly gifted at remembering her dreams, like
Nice.
to a detail that I've never heard before.
That's
Like
amazing.
her dreams are very detailed. Um, I lucid dreaming for sure for me was my first interest. For her as well, I think she told me she started lucid dreaming when she was like 3 or 4.
Wow.
Whereas like I think I started when I was like 11, and then it really took off when I was like 16. I started having some very deep dreams, and the white cube dream was, I think, was the most impactful because it was like it didn't feel like a dream like the rest of my dreams where they're kind of fleeting. Like this
Mm,
dream felt like I was just in a different life for an
mm,
extended amount of time.
wow.
And I can remember details from it that just like it just um, I've recalled the dream so often that it stayed with me, and it's probably one of the most important dreams I've ever dreamt. But I've had some epic dreams um, dreams of different civilizations and different cultures, and just architecture that I've never would have imagined. Like I couldn't have imagined. Like when I was too young to be. I didn't really read fantasy novels like that, but we're talking like some epic Dune level, like cities that are just like, where is this? Like, what is this? I can't draw this. Like, it just is some of the most profound dreams I've had are in some of the most epic places, like monolithic civilizations that just they
Mm,
have to exist somewhere, kind of feeling like this is too
wow.
real for it to just be like a little like, like but a lot growing up I had a lot of future ancient civilization like just epic dreams. Not that I was doing anything crazy epic, but just the views that I was seeing were just like, what is this?
Mm,
Yeah.
wow.
One of my favorite things when I was young was like parkouring through like badass cities, just like feeling that weightlessness of just near flying. Like when I was a kid, I one of my favorite things to do was fly in my dreams, like most kids. But I remember like learning how to fly in every different way,
Mm,
like Superman, like a phoenix, like Iron Man, like a kite. A kite was my favorite way. It was so gentle. It was so peaceful. Iron Man was very stressful. That's a very stressful
mm,
way to fly.
interesting.
And then as I got older, I stopped flying as much, and I started just kind of doing parkour. And recently, I flew in a dream. I flew in a dream, and I ended up in a city that was like divided from old ancient town and like new futuristic town. And I was flying right down the main road that divided it. And as I'm flying over the main road, I look up, and there's these giant buildings that are like trees, but they have no stems. It's just the root of the tree, and it just
Wow.
goes up like a skyscraper made of stone, but there's no stems. But all like the bottom of it, there's these long bridges, and there's like multiple towers, and they're interlaced where like the roots would be, and they're just like this, and they're just huge. And I just remember thinking like, wow. And then I remember thinking, well, I'm flying. Well, I'm back. Like oh, this is like I did this a lot as a kid. Those dreams are rarer now. They're more like
Mm,
special when I'm in those places, but
mm,
those places are very, very, very important to like my development was going to these places that I'm like, I don't know if anyone else is going to these places. Like, I don't know if anyone like my friends are dreaming about losing their teeth or like, like going on a picnic with their aunt or whatever, and I'm just in these places that are like, what? And I wish they would come back. I really welcome those dreams to come back because they were really
mm,
special. So,
mm.
dreams are very, very important to me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're kind of like it's just a fascinating realm of research that isn't super under researched. Um, but I kind of, and I want to bring this into another topic that I want to talk to you about. But, I don't know the mechanism of the collective conscious, but I definitely believe in this idea that we're all kind of like one kind of like very esoteric or very like under non or maybe a very abstract kind of idea of like we're all one, not just in the sense that
Mhm.
we're all like the same DNA or the same like species, but more of like we all share this kind of collective consciousness that we don't even understand or can't comprehend. And I think it's
Yeah.
expressed in like the DMT sphere being very similar between different people. It's expressed with dream signs is a good one. Like there's all these similarities in dreams. um, and I think it's also expressed in like flow states where what you mentioned before, where it's like you're creating something and you're in this experience, and when you're in a flow state, you're not really doing anything. You're kind of like a conduit to something else, and you could maybe say that you're a conduit to yourself, and this is like kind of like more of an enclosed pattern. But I like to think that when you're in the flow state, you're kind of a conduit to some sort of higher collective consciousness. That's just you're just downloading and downloading, downloading. Like your body's really good at that one thing, whether it's playing an instrument or VJing or getting into 3D software or painting or something, and like the actual mechanism of what you're doing and how you're moving it or how you're expressing it is like something from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I really kind of like I'm believing in it more and more, in like just a mechanism for making sense of these experiences. And I was wondering
Mhm.
what you think about it, in terms of like, flow states you mentioned. What do you think about those flow states? How do you kind of like contemplate them? And, do you have any ways of getting into them, or is it more natural for you?
Um, I mean, yeah, that's a great question. I think I first got into flow state when I would like paint and draw, and then I got really into like dancing, like just
Mm,
like expressive dancing, and that was like for
yes.
me like huge part to my unlocking is like just not caring, just being. And I definitely feel like there is with creative like output, there is something divine to it. Like there is something that comes from beyond us. I truly believe that it is like the expression is like God or whatever you want to
Mm,
call it expressing itself through us. Like we are
mm,
vessels for God's expression. Um, um, which is interesting because that means like of it goes deep. I think there is like I think there is something greater than ourselves that wants to express or feel what it feels like to do every single action ever thought possible. I also believe that there is a computational force, and that is what it is, and that's what we call a simulation, is that there is something that wants to see what it is to do and be in every single form or shape or form of existence or form of matter ever possible. And it
mm,
wants to experience what it's like to do all of that in every single different form it can.
mm.
And humans are like a really good I guess case study, or they're
Case
good
studies
like
good.
yeah, like they're we're good because our senses are so developed that we can recognize what the experience is. We can have experiences that maybe other beings or life forms can't. So in the vastness of the universe, we might be a very small speck of dust, but we're kind of important. Not we're kind of important, like not like God's favorite little like kid, but like as a research tool for what is
Mm,
possible.
mm.
Because I have you heard about Danny Goler?
No.
Danny Goler is brilliant. He's a really good friend of mine. He has discovered something called the laser, like the red laser. You'll
Okay.
probably see it online. But what you do is you smoke DMT and you look at this laser
I've heard about
projected on the
this. The
wall.
laser. Yes, I've heard about the laser. Yeah.
So Danny is brilliant. Like he came to one of my shows. He invited me to his place years ago, and he showed me the laser. And we went really deep into the research. And one of the things that I kind of took away from that is that there is beings above us that are using us as a computational force to ask questions as to why they exist. So they want to
Wow.
know what the meaning of life is on their plane of
On their plane.
existence.
Yeah. Wow.
So they created us to see what questions we would ask and what answers that would lead to
Interesting.
better understand why they exist. Um, and that makes way more sense to me than one God who just controls and rules over everything. But on their plane of existence, they would be considered gods to us. And it might just be one unified consciousness that acts in different ways. It could be God, but I don't think it's the all knowing. I think it's also the wanting to question and understand form of God. And that's why to us, we are ever exploring and ever wondering and questioning is this life, this intelligence wants to also know why it itself exists. And that's why we are the best case study or conduits for that expression to express itself through. And artists are some of the best question askers or flow state researchers. That's what really where it finds, I believe that's where it finds the most wisdom, is in our joy and in our laughter, because it takes a high level of intelligence to think something's funny, because it means you have to get one aspect of something and you either have to get the iron cooler of it. I think comedy and humor requires a high level of intelligence, and that's where it finds the most interesting. Is like, that's why the run-on joke with God to me is so important, because it went like whatever force is kind of watching this whole thing go down with the squids and the Magnuclei is like, yeah, go into that, like figure that out, because that's kind of fun. That's funny. I want to see where that takes you. And it took me to a whole career path and a whole art form that no one had done before. Like through that joke, stereoscopic art as like a independent artist became a thing, because before that it's movie studios, whatever. But here I go as a joker in on a joke, and this joke just led me down a whole like life switch, and I think that's awesome. So I do believe in something greater, but I don't research Danny's work, because I had lunch with him in LA, and he's got some really interesting theories on the nature of reality.
Yeah, I would definitely. Well, I've heard about the laser and the DMT. It's very, very interesting. Well, Orb, I really, really, really appreciate your time. This was such a nice conversation. I do like when a year passes, I like to have guests on again. So we'll have to do that again. And it was lovely having you on. Is there anything you want to share with us before we leave?
One last word. Just keep
Please.
creating. And for anyone who's like watching this and is like stumped or wants to get creating, like just keep doing it, keep going, and make something that inspires you. Don't seek validation of others. Just make something that feels good for you, feels good. Just see something that you've never seen before. That's like the best place to start with creation. And man, thank you for having me on. It's rare that I do things like this, but I do enjoy talking about art and creativity, and I don't really ever show my process. So I think that was the most challenging, because I can talk, but like showing people kind of behind the veil of how we do what we do, I think as an artist is tough, because you kind of just do it. You kind of forget that. Eventually you do want to teach a little bit, but I appreciate the opportunity, man. This was fun. I would love to do this again sometime. 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year. Wow, what an episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Manus Smash for the intro and outro music. Thank you to Sophie Holder for the amazing internship helping us with all the episodes. And thank you to the guests for coming on and spending time with us. See you next week.